What I learned from eGMAT was, especially for CR, this is just for CR, that when you're reading a prompt, whatever the question prompt is, it will not be a one statement prompt. So, what you have to do for the maximum comprehension is that you have to stop after every sentence, make sense of what you've read, move to the next sentence, and see how these two connect. You know that you booked your exam, you know that your exam, my exam was at 8 a.m., which is a terrible time to appear for an exam. But let's say whatever your exam time slot is, make sure you take maximum of your marks in that time slot so that your brain is prepared to function in those hours. I just did not realize the importance of doing that at the time of my first attempt. So when I woke, I had to wake up at 5:30 on the day of my exam, sit and solve those 20-30 questions that I usually do before the mock, and then just rush off to the mock. But by that time, I had not taken a single mock exam at 8 a.m. I just did not know what it would feel like to sit, just wake up and appear for an exam 2 hours later. DI is quite predictable. There are certain formats that they adopt across, let's say, I talk about two-part analysis. There are only so many topics that they will try and test you on two-part analysis. It's not an ever-ending list of topics. It's not an ever-ending list of the concepts that they can test you on. And that is how eGMAT helped me. The eGMAT course is structured in such a way that first you give your diagnostic test, and when it comes to topic, let's say it's for two-part analysis, then they'll make sure that when you're handling the verbal two-part analysis, you are tested on every concept of verbal DI that they can possibly ask for.
The 675 looks fantastic, but if you try to understand the journey in detail, you'll realize that it wasn't as simple as it sounds, that she came, she saw, she conquered. She had her own bit of struggles. And when you look at her journey from the numerical lenses, her journey is not short of any inspirational story. She was starting at a mere 435 like many of us out there. And from there, she improved to a 675 with a verbal score of V83, a massive Q88, and a DI80. Well, her starting score, her diagnostic mock score was a 435, where she scored a mere V69. So she improved by 14 points there. Her quant score was a Q75, so she's improved by 13 points there. And her DI score was, I think, a 71, which improved to a DI80, so 9 points improvement there. So if you see, it's all been massive improvements. And this is why she's here with us to share her journey, all the ups and downs that can help all of you not give up and just aim for better and try and be as determined as you can. So thank you so much, Ashi, for doing this. Thank you so much for being here. How are you and how does it feel to have scored a 675?
Yeah, hi Dhruv. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. I think it feels really well. And as you know, this was not my first focus attempt. I did take the GMAT exam in July, on July 8th. Unfortunately, did not go well. I got a 645, which was again an improvement, but it was not the score that I was looking for. So I again had to convince myself to appear for the exam for the second time. I worked hard. I tried to, practice as much as I could. And then I appeared for it again on 2nd of August and fortunately got a score of 675. So yeah, I'm really happy. I'm happy that I'm done with it. I am happy that it went well. Yeah.
Right, right. You mentioned about your first attempt, and I remember how dejected you were after that.
Correct.
Uh, but I always knew that you would not give up, and I knew that a good comeback was on the cards. It was just a matter of time. It was just about introspecting and trying to make those small changes, and I knew you would be out with flying colors, and here you are. So congratulations once again.
Thank you, Dhruv. Honestly, it was all in your faith. For the last 30 days before my first attempt, also, you were my only point of contact when it came to preparing for GMAT. when I got enrolled with eGMAT. You were the one who showed me faith. You were the one who told me ki I will get you a score of 665. You don't worry. And then even after my first attempt, when I was so sad, I did not even know whether I'd appear for the second attempt again or not. I just did not have it in me anymore. You were the one who shared so many stories with me and told me, just don't give up at this point. Just appear for the second attempt." I think it was all, and I don't have anybody else to share anything related to GMAT with. So you were my only source of, wisdom, advice, everything. So whatever I have achieved, I definitely owe you some share of that success.
I'm glad. Look, I'm glad. I was just trying to do what I was supposed to, and you are one diligent student. And as we go in this interview, and I start, diving deep into your journey, people will realize why I say that you were diligent and you were destined to be where you are today, right? So
Right.
before we get into your journey and share it with everybody out there, let's try to understand what your background has been, where you come from. So please share that.
Absolutely. So I am an engineer by qualification. I did engineering in the field of electronics and communication. I graduated in the year of 2018 from Manipal University, Jaipur. And since then, this was my first, after 6 long years, this was my first try at studying after 6 long years. So it was very difficult to begin with. But yes, I am just an engineer by qualification. By profession, I am a marketer. For the last 6 years, I have been working in the field of marketing, and my entire agenda, my aim is to pursue MBA so that I can take my marketing skills to another level, which is why I've been preparing for GMAT so intensely. Yeah, so that's my background. I am an engineer turned marketer.
Nice. That's interesting. That's a very interesting pivot.
Yeah,
So now that I'm sure that you would have thought about doing the MBA a few years ago, and then GMAT would have, of course, been
correct.
that stepping stone, right? So uh, let us speak about your initial journey with the GMAT when you probably knew nothing about the exam.
Yeah,
I'm sure there would have been a lot of research that would have gone into it. So how were you
absolutely.
initially preparing? Uh, were you
Absolutely.
preparing by your own self, or you were already enrolled with some
I'll
courses?
get to that. So, honestly, I did know a little bit about GMAT, but in February of 2024, when I decided that maybe I'd give GMAT a try, I searched for it and I realized that everything has changed. GMAT has shifted to the Focus Edition. I'm like, what is Focus Edition? I had never heard of it. I knew nothing of it. I just read everywhere that it is now harder, more complex. You have a data section. I just knew about verbal, quant, and integrated reasoning, which was a very, very small section. So yeah, it was a big, I took some days to adjust to the new format. Then definitely I started looking for some self-study courses. Since
Hmm.
work full time, I knew that I did not have it in me to, prepare it on my own. So I'd go and look for a few courses. Uh, on the first glance, the best courses out there were definitely TTP, eGMAT, and I was running short on time. It was already February 28th when I started researching for it, and I had to prepare for GMAT by the end of July. So I needed all those months. So I just decided to go ahead with TTP. And then
Hmm.
I dedicatedly gave 4 hours each day to TTP because they have an exhaustive course module. So I
Hmm.
started studying, trusting the process, trusting everything that TTP was throwing at me, and I started studying. And by I started studying exactly on 1st of March, and by mid of May, I thought I was kind of ready to appear for my first mock exam, official mock exam.
Right.
And yeah, but yeah, that did not go well. It was a setback for me. It was a reality check for me.
Yes, of course.
That is when I decided to email GMAT, e-GMAT. So I
Mhm.
decided to email eGMAT.
Okay, let's speak about your verbal because I remember that is what we started with,
Correct.
right? What do you think was the game changer when we speak about CR? Was
Okay.
it the approach or was it the questions that you were solving on Scholar? What was it?
Okay. So, what I learned from eGMAT was, especially for CR, this is just for CR, that when you're reading a prompt, whatever the question prompt is, it will not be a one statement prompt. So, what you have to do for the maximum comprehension is that you have to stop after every sentence, make sense
Mm.
of what you've read, move to the next sentence, and see how these two connect. So when
Right.
you look at the question prompt, let's say it's a weaken question. So how do you weaken? You know you have to attack the conclusion or you have to attack some fact about the prompt. But you can
Right.
only attack that when you understand the prompt. The mistake that I was making was I was just rushing through the prompt. Okay, okay, I understand. And then I used to move to the question. Now, when
Right.
I looked at the answer choices, for every answer choice, I was again reading the entire prompt. Answer choice A, reading the prompt. Answer choice B, reading the prompt, and still making mistakes. That's because
Right.
I did not, I was afraid to spend that extra 10 seconds to just to comprehend the prompt. Don't
Right.
do that. Try and you make sure that you understand what the prompt is saying, whether it is a plan, whether it are they criticizing something, someone, are they evaluating someone, what is it that they're doing. Try to
Mhm.
make sense of what is the evidence, what is the conclusion, and what is just extra noise in the prompt,
Right.
and then come to the answer choices. This is the skill that I picked from eGMAT, that don't try and rush to the. I remember I attended this info session conducted by Rajat, and there he mentioned that he just put a poll and he said, okay, how many of you think that you get the CR questions wrong because you don't have enough time at hand? And nobody said that the time is the issue. The issue is always that you are not reading what's happening. You're just
Right.
reading, you're not comprehending. So
Right.
that's what happened on CR. That's what I learned from eGMAT. That give yourself those extra 5 to 10 seconds, and it does not take more than 5 to 10 seconds to
Right.
understand what the prompt is saying. So you make sure that you don't have to revisit the prompt again and again after every answer choice. So that's what helped me for CR.
Right. And your when I talk about your coloring scores also, let me just share my screen.
Yeah,
Your coloring in scores actually indicate that you could have. I mean, you already scored at V85 once,
right.
right? So you actually deserved at least a V85 when you look
Correct.
at these
I
scores.
like I said, for my second attempt also, I just thought that my quant was not going well. So I
Yeah,
just let it get me. I did not do
I
well there.
understand. Yeah. So look at this. I mean, these are terrific scores. These are hard. This is a hard accuracy. So
Correct,
your
correct.
CR hard accuracy when you
You asked
embed,
me never to practice easy questions. That is why I was always doing hard questions on eGMAT. Yeah.
this is 85% on RC.
And you know how bad I was at RC. I was
Yes,
really, really bad.
you were struggling with RC. I think CR was still okay for you,
Correct. RC
but
was where
RC was a major issue. And if
RC
you
was
can
the
look,
issue, was the reason I came to eGMAT, because no matter what I did, I was just not able to improve across RC.
look
It
at this,
was
you were so
bad.
diligent. Look at these grades. That this is what I was saying initially. That I mean, of course, people will guide you, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, if there is no diligence on your own side, nothing is really going to help. So I think that is where uh, things change. And you are always diligent. I don't remember a single moment when I had to tell you, Ash, you're not diligent, be diligent. You were always there. I knew that it was just a matter of time before you would really go and do well. Uh, let me just show people your improvement chart. Just a second. Yeah. So you were doing really well here. And look at this, right? There's a good upward trajectory. Of course, there's a bit of a dip here, but look at this. There's just an upward trajectory here. So you actually did really well on verbal. Uh, could have done better, but I mean, it's not just as easy as it sounds, because the test day factors also have their own role to play, and they can really sometimes help you do better, or sometimes actually bring you down. But when we look at your want last 10 attempts on hard questions, again, fantastic. And this I remember was something that you were really sure about
Yeah,
initially, but then I think your first attempt
right.
was a
82.
mirror.
Correct.
And let me tell this to everybody out there. Engineers, you guys have something about yourself and Quant, right?
Right.
And
The GMAT
and
has the capability to really humble you.
humble you. Yeah, it's a great leveler, I think. And I knew, so when people, engineers tell me, I'm really comfortable with Quant,
You're
I
not.
just don't say anything because first, I don't want to offend you because you're engineers. Second, I know that time will shift.
Correct.
So I just don't say anything.
Basically, your GMAT quant is not your regular math. They are not
Yes,
testing you on how many topics you studied in your engineering course. They are testing something else only, and you
exactly.
can't just ace it like that.
So
Unfortunately,
Ashi, now that you had realized that quant was something that you needed to work on,
correct.
uh, how did the eGMAT quant course help you, and how did you find the scholaring questions, and how were they helpful as well?
Okay. So eGMAT, when I did realize, and I realized this pretty late into the process. I
Hmm.
realized that my quant was not as well as I thought it was. And I remember there were a couple of calls where you suggested, why don't you switch your order from verbal quant DI rather than quant verbal DI? Because I was not
Right,
doing well on quant in any manner. So, but no, I just thought that, okay, if I'm not doing well, I've exhausted TP, I've exhausted GMAT Club. eGMAT is my last hope right now.
yeah,
Then I started working. I knew that overlapping sets, especially, was the weakest topic that I had. I said,
right,
okay, I'll give overlapping sets a try. If this means that I'm able to solve hard questions efficiently, maybe I'll try and solve other chapters. Otherwise, quant में कोई नहीं बचा सकता मुझे.
right,
And I took the overlapping set initial quiz that you guys offer. I did that. They told me that you're really terrible at it. Then I started. I just switched that pace mode on, and I studied each and every topic that the course suggested that I should. And eventually, I think I've covered almost all topics on eGMAT from Con, whether I felt confident across it or not. And then I
hmm,
moved to the question bank, the Scholaranium that Dhruv
right,
mentioned. And then I started practicing. Dhruv gave me a very simple template to solve. I still saw till the last day I was solving the questions in those templates. 9 from number property, from 4 from algebra, 4 word property, and
right,
4 advanced topics. And that really helped because I think more than questions you can find anywhere. You will find eGMAT questions on GMAT Club. You will find hundreds of sources of questions on GMAT Club. Finding questions is not the problem. eGMAT just tells you the strategic approach. You will get the video solutions, you will get the written solutions. You then have a section of Q&A where you can still post your queries and these guys get it answered to you.
yeah,
So I think what I learned from eGMAT was this spaces in my approach कि मेरा क्या और क्यों गलत हो रहा है, क्यों का मेरे पास आंसर ही नहीं था. If I
right,
used to get any question wrong, I was like, okay, गलत हो गया, देख लिया solution, then I used to move on. Hmm,
hmm,
not the correct approach. You have to understand where is it, which step of it where you're making the mistake. You have to learn the steps to correct that mistake to make sure that anytime you come across a similar question, you don't make that mistake again.
right,
So yeah, that is the way that eGMAT quant helped me. Something that I did not even plan on studying for initially. I was like, TTP GMAT Club is enough. I don't need eGMAT for quant. I did
right,
indeed need eGMAT for quant. Otherwise, take a jump of 82 to 88 across in a 20-day time frame wouldn't have been possible had it not been for eGMAT. So yeah.
right, right. So I think you all, of course, being an engineer, you always had it in you, but you needed a bit of push. Maybe you were a little
And a
rusty
bit
or a
of
little,
hand holding also ki,
yeah,
you can do it.
yeah. So I think that is all that you needed, and you got it finally, right? Coming to DI, your DI improvement wasn't just a little improvement; it was a terrific one. Uh, you went from, I think, a 71 to an 80, which is fantastic. Look at these hard scores. of the last 20 attempts. They do indicate that you were at a DI 80 or maybe a DI 81 level, right? So what was really good about the DI course and how did you prepare for DI?
Okay. So I'll tell you what, across almost 12 mocks on official websites and 5 mocks on eGMAT and 2 attempts on official exam, what I've realized is that most of us think that DI is something that you can't predict, something you can't master, because any data or any format of question can be presented in any way that you just have to tackle on spot. But
Right.
that's not the case. DI is quite predictable. There are certain formats that they adopt across, let's say, I talk about two-part analysis. There are only so many topics that they will try and test you on two-part analysis.
Mhm.
It's not an ever-ending list of topics. It's not an ever-ending list of the concepts that they can test you on.
Right.
And that is how eGMAT helped me. The eGMAT course is structured in such a way that first you give your diagnostic test. And when it comes to topic, let's say it's for two-part analysis, then they'll make sure that when you're handling the verbal two-part analysis, you are tested on every concept of verbal DI that they can possibly ask for.
Hmm.
So whether it is weakening, strengthener, assumptions, everything. And it's such a exhaustive question bank that, and I'm not even talking about the scholarinium, I'm just talking about when they are teaching you the concepts.
Right.
So they teach you the concepts, but before teaching you, they test you to see how proficient you are across each topic. Then they give you guidelines to work on each topic, and then they make you practice on those questions, and that is how you solidify the concept. कि
Right.
concept तो मैंने पढ़ लिया, I know 2 plus 2 is 10, but what is 3.5 plus, let's say, 5.13? I need to get an understanding of the concept. So that is how they help you solidify the concept. And
Hmm.
I remember I just thought that, okay, DI to DI, yeah, there's nothing that anybody can teach me on DI. So I'd just as well take the Scholarinium quiz and not take the chapter quizzes. I
Right.
did that, did terribly. I think got a 35-45% on the first quiz. And then I realized, I need to take the chapter quizzes as well. And then I started preparing. Then I started from the topics that I was the worst at. I started from graphics interpretation. Then I moved to two-part analysis. Then I moved to multi-source reasoning. And I covered all those topics. Like I said, and I can't emphasize enough, the best part about see, the course is the same. So any course that you opt for, definitely the content will remain the same. The theory ka part will remain the same.
Hmm.
It's how exhaustive the question bank is. How many types of questions can a course cover that would
Right.
ultimately determine how good you are at a certain section, be it verbal, DI, or quant. So the
Right.
best part about eGMAT, I found was कि they cover possibly everything that GMAT could ask you. They try and cover for one topic, they try and cover every sort of permutation that you can think of, any sort of nitty gritties or granular concepts that they can construct out of one big single concept. So that is the
Right.
best part about eGMAT. They try and teach you from the very foundation, build that foundation. Things keep getting harder, but you keep on getting a better understanding of the topic. And
Right.
and yeah, I remember across all chapters, they just keep on saying, "Oh, the master, oh, the data set, oh, the data set, oh, the master, the data set." And that is, I think that is the key. Now that जब पढ़ रहे हो तब तो समझ में नहीं आता, because so many things in your head. But when you try and uh, inspect it, कि अरे क्या हुआ, retrospect में you realize कि yeah, that is what really helped me. So yeah,
Right.
that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Okay. Nice. What was your approach on your mock journey? Because you had two mock journeys.
Correct.
One was for your 645 attempt where you just went on a rampage and did all your
Correct.
official mocks. And I know you were so dreadful of Sigma's mocks that you were like, I will not take Sigma's mocks. I'll just do
Correct.
official mocks.
Correct.
Right. So, any strategies? Because look, even though you ended up with a 645, your mocks were really good.
Right.
Any strategies that you were applying for the mocks and that really helped you get those consistent scores?
I think after so especially after my first attempt, when I was preparing at the time of my first attempt, I did not pay much heed to the time of the day when I was sitting to
Hmm.
so it all used to revolve around my work schedule. Ki if I'm free at 5 p.m., I'll sit and take a mock at 5 p.m. If I'm free at 6 p.m., I'll sit and take a mock on 6 p.m. If I'm free in the morning, I may as well give a shot to it in the morning. That is a bad strategy. You know that you've booked your exam. You know that your exam, my exam was at 8 a.m., which is a terrible time to appear for an exam. But let's say whatever your exam time slot is, make sure you take maximum of your mocks in that time slot so that your
Mhm.
brain is prepared to function in those hours. I just did not realize the importance of doing that at the time of my first attempt. So when I woke, I had to wake up at 5:30 on the day of my exam, sit and
Right.
solve those 20-30 questions that I usually do before the mock, and then just rush off to the mock. But by that time, I had not taken a single mock exam at 8 a.m. I just did not know what it would feel like to sit, just wake up and appear for an exam 2 hours later. So it was a very different experience for me.
Mhm.
Then when I was, looking at things to improve at the time of my second attempt, and like, what is it that I can do differently? Okay. So that is
Right.
when I realized that I should try and create as many test conditions as possible. I
Mhm.
started waking up at 6 in the morning, studying from 6 to 8, 6 to 9, 6 to 10, whatever my work schedule allowed. And all the mocks, be it Sigma mocks, be it the mocks, the last two official mocks that I took all of those mocks in the 8 to 10 a.m. frame so that my brain is prepared to, do that heavy lifting in those hours. That
Right.
is the most important part. Plus, like I mentioned before, I think it's very important to get your brain a little warmed up whenever your exam is. So don't do anything the day before your exam. Give your brain some time, solve 20 questions just to keep the momentum going. But give your brain some downtime to just to relax and
Right.
just wake up whenever your exam is. Just make sure that you solve like 10 questions across each section so that your brain is a little warmed up. But try
Mhm.
and simulate as many test conditions as you can. If you think that you'd have to use the earplugs, although it is quite very quiet, but still, if you are someone who thinks that they'd have to use the earplugs during the exam, simulate those conditions for you when you are appearing for mocks. Use those earplugs, use those headphones so that you know what it feels like. Don't
Right.
get too comfortable on your work chairs when you are sitting for mocks because the test center is not that comfortable. You know that you just have one small chair, you'd have to sit with your feet on the floor, and you'd not be very comfortable. So try and make yourself a little uncomfortable during the mock so that you can simulate as many conditions as you can.
Mhm.
So that's my learning, and that I learned it the hard way, but this is for anyone who's looking at the interview.
Right. Right. I mean, it did not cost you much, just one more attempt, but it usually can cost people multiple attempts. So
Correct.
you learned it quickly. That's great.
Correct.
All right, Ashish. So with this, we come to the end of this interview, and I'm really happy and glad that you came out all guns blazing and just shared every possible detail that you could, very candidly, very honestly. Uh, I actually feel the intent behind was to just help people as much as you could with your experience. And
Absolutely. Because I've been in that boat. I have seen a lot of, Reddit posts, interviews where people say, oh, I started with a 705 on my mock one and I ended up, let's say, 755 on mock six. And I'm like, I can't relate to you. Matlab,
yeah,
it's very good. I'm very, very happy for you that you started at a very good place, but I can never relate with someone. I'm not saying that they get it easy. It's just
yeah,
their mental caliber. It's just that I
right,
can't relate to them. So if anybody can relate to this, I'd just like to tell you that it's not impossible. It just takes a little self-analyzation to see where you're going wrong. Your concepts do not lag anything. It's your approach that can see some rework. So yeah, just
right.
work on that. And if even if I'm able to help one person through this video, I'll be really glad to do that.
That's right. I'm sure there would be more. But yeah, thank you so much for this, Ashi. We
Thank you.
wish you all the best for your next steps.
Thank you so
Please keep
much.
us posted about your application process. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. And again, we are really proud of your journey. and we are honored to have been a part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dhruv. It was a really, really good time working with you. And yeah, I hope to see you guys around.
Thank you.